Hello and welcome to a live pop culture on Deprogrammed with Keri Smith. I'm your host, Keri. I'm here with my co-host, Mystery Chris. Can you guys tell me how my volume is? I had some trouble with this microphone, so let me know. How's it sound to you, Chris?
It sounds fine.
Okay, good. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good, as you know, rushing around. My aunt is visiting, and she got in really late last night, and they lost her bag, and there's all kinds of chaos with the airlines, of course. And anyway, we're getting ready for our house concert on Friday. I know I'm going to see some of you in the chat there. Kevin, I'm pretty sure I'm going to see you there. So if you are in the Georgetown, Texas area and you are a deprogrammed listener and viewer and you would like to come hang out, my husband and I have been doing hosting these house concerts. And so this will be the fourth one. And it was actually the fourth and the fifth. We're doing two on Friday, 1 o'clock if you can come to a matinee, and then we have a 7 o'clock show. And I think I replied to everyone who had emailed me already. If I didn't, just hit me up again and say, hey, you didn't get back to me with the ticket link. But if you want the ticket link, if you're in the area, just email deprogrampod@gmail.com. Also, if you've purchased tickets and you don't have the address yet, don't worry. No one does unless they've been here before. We're emailing out everyone who purchased tickets. We're emailing out the address tomorrow, so you'll have it tomorrow. But we're in the Georgetown, Texas area. Okay, that's my only announcement. Do you have any announcements?
Nope.
Okay. No funny stories to recount.
Let's see. What did I watch? Over the week, I've been catching up on old movies. I told you I watched Peter Pan. That's a new one, but I watched Falling Down. I had never seen that movie before.
Oh, is that the one with Martin Sheen?
No, that's with Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas, right? I get
Yeah,
confused. I've seen
yeah.
that movie.
And
Not
so
all.
it's interesting watching it in today's context and how he's kind of losing his mind based on a lot of things going on in the country at that time, which are now worse now. So it's just interesting. You have a different perspective, I think, watching it today than you did in the early 90s.
I need to see it now then.
Yeah, I think you should watch it.
We have been watching, Anthony had never seen the John Wick movies, and so I had only ever seen the first one, actually, but he had never even seen that one, so we started watching them, and he doesn't usually like action, but he loves it, and so then we started like a month ago or so. Anyway, we paused the 3rd movie. Have you seen the movies?
I've seen 1 through 3, but not the fourth one.
Okay. So we just finished the 3rd one because we want to see the 4th one soon. But we had paused the 3rd one in the middle and then we left it for a couple weeks, busy, working, traveling, whatever. Came back and I was thinking, wait, can you remind me what was happening in the film? And he was like, well, Keanu Reeves is killing people. That's pretty much all that happens in
Yeah,
any John Wick movie.
yeah. I've noticed in every movie, and I'm sure the fourth one probably does this too. You can let me know, but every movie he gets hit by a car. Have you noticed that?
Yes, we
Like it
noticed
has to be a joke now. Like, it's like,
several cars. By the time it got to, like, the 3rd movie or one of it, we got hit, like, 3, 4 times.
it's like, what is he made out of?
And then they added stuff. I felt like they're probably like, "We have to make this one bigger, badder, crazier." And so someone's like, "Let's do an underwater scene." So there's an underwater shooting gun scene, you know? It's just it's funny. If you guys haven't seen them, they're just yeah, they're pretty, it'll get your adrenaline going. I just love the technical aspects of, like, watching how fast he reloads and everything. That's pretty cool. It's like ballet, the way they choreographed it, all the
Oh
fight
yeah,
scenes.
you've seen that video of him training for it and
Mm-mm.
how quickly. Oh, you got to watch that. Maybe you should pull that up real quick. I know we're talking about K-pop, but it's pretty awesome. It's just a training video where he's just loading and just shooting. And it's just amazing that
He must have
actor.
trained for a
That
long
good.
time.
Yeah, I think it was for the third one because Halle Berry was in this clip as well. But uh, he's almost Tom Cruise like almost. You know how Tom Cruise does a lot of his stunts. He goes very far to like learn how to do actual things. I mean, Keanu's not quite to that level, but still, the training involved in some of this stuff is pretty amazing.
Oh, he's doing speed shooting. Look at this.
Yeah,
Okay, let's put
show
this
that.
up.
Get trigger warning. There are guns in this video. You think YouTube's gonna be doing that soon?
Trigger warning, yeah. Well,
Warning, there are
one of the
guns.
things every time we do a video, you don't see this, but on the back end, I have to I think it's like one of 7 certain things you have to self-report on. They have a specific category for guns. Did you talk about guns? Did you show guns?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was joking, but
So I'm gonna have to say yes. Here we go. Stand by. Oh, this is great. I used to when the firearms school that I went to in Los Angeles, one of the trainers there, the instructors there, he was this fast. He was the craziest, fastest person I've ever seen in real life. And they used him as a model for image capture for the Modern Warfare game. So
oh wow.
if you play that game, I think it was the first game, I don't know. But anyway, it's his body that they modeled it on. It's him doing all the reloads and stuff. It's crazy.
I know.
Oh, they had to slow it down. He's shooting so fast.
Stand by.
Two to the heart, one to the head. It's the Mozambique. Or the
Wait, there's
double.
an actual name for that?
Yeah. It's called the
Oh.
Mozambique or the double tap, I think. There's another name for it other than Mozambique. I can't remember what it is, but yeah. Yeah, double tap, somebody said.
It's so masculine. So my testosterone
Yeah.
levels have gone up since watching that video.
Okay. Well, we're not here to talk about John Wick. Yeah, the Mozambique drill. That's what he's doing. We're not here to talk about John Wick tonight. We're here to talk about K-pop. Zocast, by the way, gives the other name. It's the failure to stop drill. Like basically, if 2 to the heart doesn't take them down, just in case 2 to the heart doesn't take them down, you do 1 to the head. Okay, we're here to talk about K-pop. Can you set this up? What is it? Why is K-pop important?
Well, thanks, Keri.
Why are you interested in it? I know why I'm interested in it.
Well, K-pop stands for Korean pop, and it is music, specifically pop music from Korea. And I'm interested in Asian things. And when you brought this topic up, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to dive into some K-pop stuff because I'm not familiar with Korean pop culture at all, really, other than Gangnam Style, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it'd be interesting to explore this topic.
I don't like K-pop. So I'm look, it's just an opinion. Some of you people in the chat, I like country music, not so much the radio country, but I like country. I like old country. I like some 80s and 90s country I do and some Texas country, stuff like that. And you may not like country. It's just an opinion. So I know we have people who enjoy K-pop in the chat, and I should have called this I don't like K-pop, change my mind, because then you're welcome to be here and try to change my mind. Somebody was asking about the graphic. They were like, was that on purpose? Because the thumbnail says K-poop. But it's my problem with K-pop, I think, stems from it's the same problem I have with a lot of American pop music. I think it's all driven by algorithm. It just sounds super saccharine and repetitive to me, and it doesn't. It just doesn't. It doesn't have the spark of joy in it, as I've said about other kinds of pop music before.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand like the popularity of K-pop because I can understand how certain foreign pop culture stuff is interesting, like Japanese pop culture, like particularly like anime. I understand, even though I'm not like a huge anime guy, I understand the popularity of it because it's very different from Western storytellings and the way they tell those stories, and so I can understand that. But when it came to K-pop, at least the stuff I was listening to in preparation for the show, like you were saying, so much of it just sounded like the same stuff that is being produced here in the States. Like I was listening to Blackpink, like the group. I think it's a group, yeah. And their music sounded just like Taylor Swift's music, which they actually have like one more. Like they have 6 songs with over 1 billion views on YouTube right now, which is one more than Taylor Swift.
Wow.
Yeah, BTS has 6 and 1 billion views as well, which is it's just amazing, just the reach of this music, and particularly for stuff that, in my opinion, just wasn't that different from what we hear in the States. So I don't understand what that appeal is.
That's the other thing that fascinates me is because I know some younger people. Okay, whenever I say stuff like that, I feel so old.
I know.
I know some young people, like teenagers, 16 to 18, who love it, who that's their jam. And it's not just K-pop. I think it's the whole cultural phenomenon because it's
Mhm.
also sort of, uh, like the kids I know who are really into it have the lunch boxes with anime characters on them, or the Japanese
Mhm.
character. They're really into Asian culture in general, Asian pop culture, manga, stuff like that. So,
Really shows you just how much pop culture is driven by youth, young
mhm.
people in general. And I was thinking, like, are there any like bands or musical artists that old people listen to that have just come out and have over 1 billion views on YouTube? I'm not talking about like some old band like YouTube. They probably don't even have 1 billion views for their videos, but still, like if there was a new artist just came out and only appealed to old people, no young people, had 1 billion views, that'd be amazing. But I don't think that really exists. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. But
I don't know of any. Yeah, I don't know of any new artists. Like, you know what it is? Maybe it's because as we're getting older, I don't listen to new music very much. And I know we've done a whole music episode, and there were people in the chat recommending stuff, and they were saying it's out there. The good music's out there. You just have to really search for it because the mainstream is dominated by the pop and the algorithmic stuff. However, I just I haven't found the quantity that you can find just by listening to old music. So I think what's happening is as you get older, maybe you just stop being in tune with the new stuff anyway. I mean, my playlist right now is like I just cycle between the decades. It's like all 50s all the time, and then it's all 20s all the time, or 40s. I've been listening to a lot of the wartime radio stuff, and then I will hear, by virtue of my gig job, new stuff, and it's just like, oh, to my ears because I've been listening to all this really quality music, and then I hear this. I'm like, stop! What are you doing?
I listen to a lot of new music, but not pop music. I found a lot of really good songs that aren't being, at the top of the Spotify playlist or, background music for TikTok videos and stuff like that. You know, it is out there. And, I've made this point before, but this current generation or people who are making music have listened to music from the past, I don't know how many decades, really, and have kind of combined a lot of those different genres. And so they've kind of made these weird, mixed genre stuff, songs that are a bit reminiscent of genres of past, but, still sound new. And I just think it's interesting. We live in a day and age where a lot of these people who are influenced by these genres can directly make the music themselves. They don't have to pay a producer. They can mix that music on a laptop. They can distribute it. themselves, just put it online, and maybe it picks up, maybe it doesn't, but still that middleman and that barrier of entry is kind of eroded quite a bit. And so we're seeing a lot of more independent singer-songwriters out there making their own music, and I think that's great.
Yeah, it's much easier to get your stuff out there now. Okay, I'm going to bring up just a quick paragraph. I've scrolled down almost to the end of this article. This is an article in LA Film called A Brief History of K-Pop, but I'm just going to look at this era right here. They're calling it third generation of K-Pop, which is what you and I, as Gen Z, might know just as K-pop, because I didn't know about K-pop before the 2010s, I guess. So it's 2010s to the present. It says, the K-pop groups who are dominating the charts today are the third generation. BTS, EXO, 17, and Blackpink have taken over the music world with no signs of stopping. The mainstream success of third generation K-pop in the US is unique because traditionally America exports culture but has been reluctant to import it. To say it bluntly, entertainment in the US is dominated by a white-centric monoculture. There's some wokeness creeping in.
It only took how many sentences to get there?
Oh, white-centric. It's almost like the majority population is white. With a few notable exceptions like Destiny's Child, Monundo, New Edition, the vast majority of successful and industry-backed groups have been white. The third generation... Wait, what? Of industry-backed groups? That's not true. I mean, like I said, listen to the music from the 50s.
What are they counting as industry-backed groups?
I don't know. That's crazy. Anyway, it's like they're discounting all notable and successful like Black musicians in America, which is as if they're don't even exist.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what they're talking about. Are they talking about like bands where there's auditions or they put them together? Which I assume that's what they're talking about.
Oh,
I mean,
like
yeah,
singing
you could look
groups?
back like the 60s, and yeah, I mean the Beatles, they were organic though. They weren't put together, even though they're considered a boy band technically. They played their own instruments. But I don't think it was really the Monkees were kind of put together, I believe, to cash in on that Beatles popularity. But yeah, in the 80s you get New Edition and New Kids on the Block, and then the 90s you get the NSYNC and all the rest.
I know, but if you go back, it's like, the Temptations, the Platters, the Penguins, like it's like they're just ignoring all of that history. And those are singing groups. I don't know if they were put together or not.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know what that means. Okay. The third generation of K-pop was able to crack the American mainstream in large part due to social media. The social media boom has made it so that niche culture can be shared globally. TikTok and Instagram are more than sharing sites. They're different avenues to entry instead of just TV and radio. They're platforms that, when used correctly, can launch someone into stardom. The music industry loves a group of young people that can sing, dance, and appeal to consumers between the ages of 13 and 18. K-pop is the British invasion for Gen Z, but dialed up past 11. Not only are K-pop idols covering magazines and selling merch, but they're extraordinarily talented, perfectly styled, socially conscious, and capable of generating enormous engagement on social media. The allure of pop music and boy-girl bands has been irresistible for decades. Every generation gets a coterie of pop stars to fawn over, but for the first time in America, they are not white. They are Korean.
What? Just ignore Michael Jackson and Prince. And,
yeah.
Whatever.
For the first time ever. This is like Jennifer Lawrence was the first K-pop star. This is what this is sounding like to me. K-pop is the first time non-white people have made successful music in America.
I hate these people.
Yeah. Okay. Should we start with your should we bring up your news report?
Sure. This is the ABC report. So this is talking a little bit about all the people who are trying to get their kids to become K-pop stars. And I have an article we can bring up later about some of the darker aspects of the industry, because it gets a lot darker than a lot of people realize.
Yes, and we might have a special treat. My husband, Anthony Garcia, may be joining us in a little bit. He's on his way from the airport. If he makes it here before we end, he really wanted to be a part of this episode. He lived in Korea for many years. He's a musician, and he has opinions or an insight. Okay.
Now to the exploding K-pop scene worldwide, a vibrant genre that's become so popular, parents are enrolling their kids in K-pop school, hoping for a promising entertainment career. ABC's Seoul Bureau Chief Joo-hee Cho reports.
Moves and grooves, along with singing, are now essential skills to fit into the social media savvy Korean society. And parents here in Seoul's posh Gangnam district make sure their kids are ready for TikTok, YouTubes, and Reels. No one wants to be left behind the K-pop craze.
At first, he didn't.
Can we just pause here for a second? This was news to me, not with this this news report tonight, but my husband was the one who told me about this. They send their kids, they start training them when they're little children. They go to K-pop school. Did you hear that? They teach them how to do social media and everything.
Yeah, I remember finding that out years ago and being kind of shocked by it. But I've seen a lot of articles of people defending that, Korean people saying that this is just part of their industrious culture, that, this is what because parents in general in that culture tend to be very strict and want their kids to follow a certain path. And so they kind of push them very hard. And so people are saying that, oh, that's just a part of the Korean culture. So.
Anthony says he's here while driving, I guess. He says this is exactly what I wanted to talk about. Yeah.
Like to dance. Oh no, mom, I don't like to dance. But after 1 year, he just really fall in Korean dance, and he think it's very amazing for him.
The global success of K-pop and the influence of Korean culture worldwide, especially on social media, have become a source of national pride and hope for the future.
I think it has changed a lot from, let's say, 10 years ago. There are many parents who didn't want their kids to be entertainers. But now, after the success of K-pop, I think there are a lot of parents introduce their kids to K-pop dancing and singing.
The government education ministry, known for its rigid and conservative values, are also joining in by loosening restrictions on after-school programs to include K-pop classes. This high school receiving an $11 million budget to specialize in K-pop education. Students take classes in all things related to K-pop, dancing, choreography, vocal and music writing, learning skills to play.
Imagine if here in the States we had like Backstreet Boys school. I mean, isn't that kind of what this is?
Yes, it's kind of weird. Like, do you remember there used to be an MTV show called Making the Band where they did that, where it was like a Backstreet Boys type thing, but it was a reality show where they were putting people together and trying to make a band that went ultimately nowhere.
That went nowhere. This is just so fascinating.
But it's like an entire industry that's manufactured for the most part, which I think, and that's one of the interesting things about Psy, which we'll talk about Psy later, but Psy came up, I believe, through his own means. Like he wasn't being pushed, like he wasn't, some record label didn't decide to make him a star. He just was making goofy music, and then one particular song caught on and became a global smash hit.
It just feels like there's something about this that's so, it's like a factory.
Mm-hmm.
It's like making music by algorithm, but more than just algorithm. They're starting, like that one mom was saying her kid didn't like dancing at first, but she kept him in school. until he did, and it's sort
Until
of
he did like
yeah, like you're going to this K-pop factory and you're
Mhm.
going to come out with a manufactured song and band if you follow all these steps. I don't know, it's weird.
kind of reminds me of like a lot of black families. So, a lot of kids want to be NFL stars and NBA stars. And so they just devote like their lives to hoping that they're going to be, I forget what the chances are, pretty low chances that they'll become a major professional athlete, but still how many are just pinning their futures on that. And it's just,
Yeah.
I just wonder, like, what happens to a lot of these people who go through these factories that don't get into
Don't get
these
into
bands.
it.
Yeah.
That's what I want to ask Anthony
Do they
about.
feel like a failure for like the rest of their
Yes.
life?
That's what I want to hear about is all the people who don't actually make it after their parents have spent all this time and money
Mhm.
and pressure for them to become famous K-pop stars. Like, they all those kids in all these schools can't make it. ADL in the chat says, this sounds like what I heard about hockey players in Slovakia.
This also happened to Ivan Drago's son, because Ivan Drago lost to Rocky Balboa, and Ivan's son fights Adonis Creed and Creed 2. And so this is exactly like it. It's the same thing. I just watched Creed 2 the other day.
I was like, that's a reach. I was trying to even remember
It's the same thing though.
plot.
But like in the movie, like Ivan Drago is a failure for losing to Rocky in Rocky 4. So he's trying to live through his son and trying to make
I see.
their family
Yeah.
name again to bring, pride instead of shame upon their name.
That's kind of what it is. You used to always hear about the tiger moms, right? How in a lot of different kinds of Asian culture that there was this pressure for academic success and or to become doctors or lawyers, and now it seems like, I mean, this one just came out of left field. It's like you could become a doctor, a lawyer, or a K-pop star, but you better be one.
It's something interesting too about a lot of this K-pop stuff is apparently a number of people, I don't know the exact percentage, but apparently a number of people who go to these factories, or even some of the people who are in the bands that become something, are not Korean. Like,
What?
there are people from other countries that sometimes will somehow get into the K-pop stuff, which is it's just weird, but I guess that makes
wonder
sense.
if there are Americans sending their kids there.
I want to be surprised.
We should find out. Tara T, thank you for the super chat, lady. $4.99. She says, reject the modernity of K-pop, embrace the tradition of the roof Korean.
Base roof Koreans.
Guilty admission. I've seen the roof Korean, that phrase being bandied about, and I haven't looked into it yet.
You don't know?
I don't know what that means.
Oh, that's in reference to the LA riots when
Okay.
a bunch of people of a certain color, a bunch of people of a certain flavor were breaking into stores, and a bunch of Korean store owners decide to get some guns and go up to the roofs and start shooting attempted looters.
Wow, that's a meme now. Okay, thank you, Tara T. I learned something. I Dance for Pennies is in the chat and says, I failed as a K-pop prodigy. That's why I ended up as an engineer. Are you joking? I can never tell. I don't know sarcasm when it's in chat. You could be telling the truth. Okay, let's just finish with this news report. We're towards the end. Back up just a little.
Learning skills to play with various instruments, all free paid tuition.
The idea is not necessarily to nurture future stars. Realistically, most talented ones are already casted by professional agencies.
The goal here is to train them to be essential workforces in the massive entertainment industry where plenty of jobs are in need. But the glamour and glitz of a star...
So you all want to be K-pop stars? Yeah! You want to be famous? Yeah!
have all dreaming big early on. Joo-hee Cho, ABC News, Seoul, South Korea.
And our thanks to Joo-hee Cho.
Okay. K-pop schools. Who knew, right?
Completely different culture.
Do you want to get into the BTS stuff?
Oh, you want to bring up? You could bring up that article. So BTS, which is one, if not the most popular K-pop band, which I still know very little but about. I don't even know what BTS stands for. Does it stand for back to school or something? What is that?
I actually don't know either. But I've heard that was like the first one I heard of with the young people I know talking about BTS. I'm like, what is BTS?
Well, if you thought that K-pop was safe from social justice, you were wrong.
Oh, man. Okay. Here we go. This is an article from Korea Jungang Daily. And the headline is From Hip Hop Band to Social Justice Warriors, a look back at BTS so far. The first chapter of BTS's career as a group has officially come to a close. The K-pop sensation's eldest member, Jin, is set to enroll in a frontline boot camp north of Seoul on Tuesday as part of his mandatory military service. All able-bodied Korean men are obligated to serve 18 months or more in the military. That's also so interesting to me that these kids go to K-pop school from a very young age, and they're groomed in this way to be very effeminate, and they all wear makeup and stuff, and then they're like, okay, now go do your 18 months in the military.
It's about on par with what's going on in US's military.
Yeah. BTS won't be back as a complete group of 7 until 2025, according to its management, as other members will enlist for their mandatory services one by one. The band announced a hiatus of its group activities through a YouTube video in June, which caused a frenzy in the entertainment industry regarding BTS's future and how K-pop as a whole will be impacted in the absence of one of the world's biggest boy bands. This is kind of like when Elvis enlisted. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
He just took time off from music and enlisted. Went over.
I wonder if he's the cute
Germany
one,
or
though.
somewhere?
I wonder if the one that's going to military service is the cute one.
Which one's the cute one?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
It's so hard to pick.
Okay. If they go the way of Elvis, that means when they get back, they'll make a lot of B movies.
So if you scroll down to the speaking up section, that's when it starts talking about their role in politics. There we go. Look at that.
Okay. Speaking up. This just doesn't look real to me. This looks like a scene from a movie.
Like Independence Day or something.
Yeah.
They have to dance to keep the aliens away.
There they are at the White House, at the podium. BTS. Okay. K-pop acts are known to refrain from commenting on political or social topics in order to minimize any chance of backlash or division within their fandoms. While the same was true for BTS regarding domestic issues, the boy band has taken many stances on social topics that affect the international community. One of the best-known cases of BTS speaking up on a politically sensitive subject was in June of 2020, when the septet issued a statement supporting the Black Lives Matter movement and donated $1 million to the founders' personal mansions. I'm kidding. $1 million to the cause, but we know where that went. The band risked receiving negative feedback from those who opposed the decision or fans who wished it would take the conventional K-pop route and distance itself from political matters. However, the boy band went on to vocalize its stances on various issues. BTS drew attention to climate change and championed sustainable development during a speech at the United Nations General Assembly in September of 2021. What qualifications did they have to speak at the UN about climate change and sustainable development? Is it because they take a lot of private jets? Like, why? What experience do they have? The septet also visited the White House and met with U.S. President Joe Biden in May to raise awareness on the increase of anti-Asian hate crimes and discrimination.
Didn't they talk about how it's black people attacking Asians? I don't.
No, probably
Did
not.
they mention that? No.
Probably not. I'm gonna take a break from this article for 1 second and welcome. Hello, Anthony Garcia.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool.
You
How
made
y'all
it.
doing? Hello, Mystery Chris.
Hi, Anthony.
How y'all doing? Are y'all still talking about K-pop?
We're talking about K-pop. We started to get into BTS and how they are now pushing social justice issues.
Is that the guy
But-
that killed all those people?
What?
BTS killer?
Oh no, that's the BTX.
Oh. Okay.
Okay, I found it funny.
I was joking.
Oh, BTK. That's what
Yeah,
I-
that guy. Him.
BTK.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt.
Well, actually, let's move back just a minute before we pick up about the social justice and BTS. We were talking about, I know you were listening in the car, a little bit about the K-pop schools.
hmm
Can you share a little bit about that and your experience?
Yeah. So what's interesting is it, first of all, is my audio okay? Is it like distorting or anything weird? Is it too loud? Is that better?
Sounds good.
Is that better? Okay. So yeah, so when I was over in Korea, I was over there in 2009, and my first year being in South Korea, I was teaching at an elementary school, and so that was interesting. It gave me a firsthand insight into this exact topic, and what it was that the Korean schools are called Hogwans. It's like hog, like a port.
Hogwarts.
Kind of sounds like that. They wish it was Hogwarts. It's called Hogwan, like, kind of like the word hog plus wand without the D on it, without the D on the end. So these schools are academies. They're like after school programs basically, and these programs go from like 2 p.m. until 10 p.m. And so the students will have their normal
Wait.
school.
They have normal school first, and then they
Right.
do this till 10.
Right. So they have normal school that starts at 8:30 and goes till about 2 o'clock. So you'll have like 4 periods in the morning and then like 2 in the afternoon. Some of the kids only have 1 period in the afternoon, and then they go to their whatever their Hogwan is that they go to. Now there are several different Hogwans. There are English Hogwans, there are math Hogwans, there's science Hogwans, there are baseball Hogwans. The pressure to become a baseball star is just as big as being the pressure to become a K-pop star in South Korea. What else? Baseball, and then K-pop, b-boy Hogwans. There's all kinds of Hogwans, and that's a normal part of the life of a Korean student, is to go to school, and it would be pretty much like a middle class to upper middle class to upper class students typical day. Would be to go from 8:30 till 2, and then from 2 till 8, maybe from 4 to 10, to pursue whatever field they wanted to, or their parents were pressuring them to become stars in. It was like a lot of what is it called, celebrity parents, or child star parents, in the making,
Pressuring them.
a huge pressure. And
Davina in the chat says, I heard they post all the kids' marks publicly.
yeah, so that's interesting. So I was going to actually talk about that, because what it happens is, so what they did was they had to pass a law. So like I said, I was there between 2009 and 2013, and they passed a law while I was living there that Hogwans were not allowed to stay open after 10 p.m. There was a cutoff. They lowered the cutoff time to 10 o'clock. And so that's just shows how intense it is there. And as a result, all the pressure that's put on the kids, the suicide rate in South Korea at the time was really high. And I don't remember exactly the statistics. I just remember reading a lot about it. Suicide rate was just huge. And
I think that, and we have some articles for later about that, like about the dark side of K-pop and the high suicide rate.
Mm-hmm. And what she was saying about posting the mark. So there's one story that I read about this kid who, I think it was high school entrance exams. I can't remember if it was. I'm pretty sure it was high school. It was an entrance to get in exams to get in high school. And I look a little weird. Anyways, so this one kid, he took a test. He was living at home with his mom, his single mom, and they, whatever, it's a national test. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of kids taking this test to get into high school, and they post the national rankings, and this kid ranked like 72. He got like number 72 in all of South Korea, which is pretty amazing. Pretty smart kid. Well, his mom wasn't good enough for his mom, so she beat him and like locked him in his room and did all this deprived him of food for like, I don't know how long, a week or something like that. Well, he somehow figured out how to hack into the system, and he changed it to where he was number 4, so it wouldn't be so obvious. And it still wasn't good enough because he wasn't number 1. So he ended up killing her. He ended up murdering her and put her body in. I think he stabbed her to death. I'm not really sure how he killed her. It's just like more than 10 years ago, like 12 years ago. And he put her in her bedroom and sealed it off and just kind of went about his daily life.
Kept going to Hogwan.
I guess he went to Hogwan. I don't know if he kept going to Hogwan or not, but he was just a kid in Korea, and this happened, and which is crazy because there's not too many standalone houses anymore in South Korea. They're all these high-rise, multi-story, high-rise luxury apartments. So I imagine that would have been in one of those, and the smell of a dead body would not have taken long to discover. But yeah, so that's just kind of showing. I mean, that's one example, but I saw it a lot. I saw it a lot in the students I taught, because in addition to the schools, in addition to the Hogwans, for lessons, at least for English lessons, the parents would pay cash for you to come, for native speakers to come to their house and teach their child however many times a week for like $100 or whatever, which is pretty good money. It's actually, I don't know. There were a lot of jokes around the foreign community of just like, oh, hey kid, give me your money. Like we're all like, hustling the kids for some cash. But I was teaching this one girl, and she was super smart, super good in English. And I just was making small talk with her. I was like, so what are you going to do this weekend? She was like, I'm going to study. Like, well, this weekend? You mean this weekend you're going to study? She's like, yeah. She's like, do you ever go meet your friends or anything? She's like, no, I read and study all weekend. And Monday you go back to school? Yes, I go back to school Monday. Yes. And so I started explaining to her about what I did as a kid. Go to the mall on Saturdays and meet my friends. I'd go skateboard, and then we had the summers free. The kids, I remember in one of my lessons I had to explain to them. One of the things I explained to them was the calendar school year, and that we, in the United States, at least when I was a kid, we got 3 months off. Now it's much less time, but we get 3 full months off of school. And they just, I remember seeing their faces, how they were just dumbfounded that we got that much time off. And they looked at the teacher and they were rattling all these questions to her in Korean. Like, is this real? Is he telling the truth? Because these kids are just, the expectations placed on them, and the pressure put on them, and add to that the society they live in. It's not an individualistic society. It's a Confucian society. So just the way that we place value on individualism here in the West, at least, especially in the United States, the value in their culture is placed on the group mentality and the family, and respecting the elders and respecting order and respecting tradition. And so they're not really in a position to question authority. They're not in a position, they would never do that. And so they're just placed in this position where there was pressure from the top to succeed. And some of them do, like BTS.
What about the ones who don't?
Well, like kill their moms and
not all of them.
Put them in a room.
Well, this video, I don't know if you got to see the end of the news report. You were probably.
I did. I was coming into the house.
Walking in the house, but they said that they know that a lot of the kids won't become big stars, so they're teaching them how to work in different parts of the entertainment industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Still not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of the kids that don't succeed, they obviously go into other fields. They go into, the pressure is put on them in other ways. If they're not like baseball stars or K-pop stars, they're pressured to go be executives or CEOs. It's a very huge pressure to be a CEO. That was one of the main, when I would ask students and my university students what their dream was to become, it was to become a CEO. Wasn't
of what? It doesn't matter.
It was just to become a CEO. And that was just there was no middle ground. There was very little middle ground, and it's a very passionate society. It's a very passionate culture.
That's so sad because it's not like, I want to be a CEO of, this kind of company, this kind of product that I'm very passionate about, this kind of thing. It's just any CEO. Very passionate about being a CEO.
Yeah.
Okay, so should I bring the rest of this article back up, Chris?
Sure.
Okay. We're in the middle of reading about how BTS sort of broke some of the unwritten K-pop rules about how you don't comment on politics or social issues, and how they donated $1 million to Black Lives Matter and started speaking on behalf of Black Lives Matter.
Really?
Yeah, speaking out against climate change.
Amazing.
Yeah, and they went to the White. Here they are with at Biden's White House. Doesn't that look like a scene from a movie?
Well, what? Okay, go ahead.
Probably more articulate than Joe Biden. Their thick Korean accent.
Well, because of the reason I'm so shocked is because, at least when I was living there, and I'm sure nothing's changed, that South Korea is still, I don't want to dog on. I'm not trying to give some sort of a bad impression of South Korea. It's a wonderful country, but the truth is that there's socially, in the way that they look at the world, and the way they basically socially, they're still stuck in the 60s. And so it's amazing to me that such a powerful group, which it's not amazing actually, it makes sense if they're trying to market themselves to the West, but people, your average Korean person, they don't really have any reservations about being blatantly racist, and actual racism. Voicing that they have a problem with a Black person, or with a person of a different race, of Southeast Asian person.
Did you ever encounter that as a Mexican?
They don't even know what that is. But I didn't. No, I never did. They always thought I was Filipino, which Filipinos are discriminated against. But I was quick to tell them that I was, American. And then plus my last name is Garcia, and who happens to be a major baseball star in South Korea. So, the minute I told them my last name was Garcia, it was like Michael Jordan, and his name's Kareem Garcia. He used to play for the Yankees, and he was playing for the Busan Latte Giants. So he was a big celebrity over there. So, I never personally experienced that, but I had friends who were either overweight, obese, or Black that, didn't get jobs because they were required. Universities and schools and different jobs require photographs on the resumes. They require them. Here, where you're not supposed to ask for photographs on resumes, and there you're required to, because they want to see if you're fat or if you're Black, so they know whether or not it's the way it is.
See, if we did
paradise.
See, if we did that.
Maybe to you, sir.
Oh, hey, well, I had at work, I had the diversity, equity, inclusion training, and they were talking about how the studies, how like applicants with like Black names, like apparently get rejected more often than white people. And I was like, good, I would do that. I'm not accepting somebody with stereotypical Black name.
You're
doing it.
You have a very fancy name. We won't say what it is, but
it's not ghetto.
It's not. It's not a.
I would say it's a top tier, if I may say, top tier African American name.
Yeah,
well, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
First class.
Yeah. Wow. There we go.
I was going to say, if you. Someone's asking, is this I dance for pennies? Hello, is this Keri's husband? Yes, this is my husband, Anthony Garcia.
Who's asking? And why? State your purpose.
So I was going to say, if we had to put our photos and resumes here, I'm shocked that the woke haven't pushed for that yet, because it would be the opposite here. If you were fat or black, they would then hire you
Right.
immediately. Be like, okay, done.
It's just gonna encourage blackface, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, now with AI too, you just make an AI for black person just to get into the door.
Well, I know, because a lot of the college admission stuff and the discrimination that happens, that I've heard that parents are, advising their kids for white kids to put that they're Native American, to give themselves that leg up, I guess.
Do they have to like submit a 23andMe to prove that?
I think they could do like Elizabeth Warren did, right? You just say it.
It's a trust system, I see.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so let's just finish the rest of this paragraph. So we read this part about them, BTS, sort of breaking these rules of K-pop and speaking out on these political and social justice issues, talking about climate change. They spoke before the UN, Anthony, which I was sort of asking, what gave them the expertise? What qualified them to do a speech in front of the United Nations about climate change and sustainable development? It says they also visited the White House and met with U.S. President Joe Biden in May to raise awareness on the increase of anti-Asian hate crimes and discrimination.
I wish they filmed that. It would have been so hilarious.
I bet it's filmed somewhere.
Yeah.
BTS's members' active donations, ranging from supporting children from low-income families to preserving Korean artifacts abroad, have resonated with fans of BTS, dubbed ARMY. Taking after their idols, ARMY is known for its charitable efforts and has consequently impacted K-pop fandom culture overall. Quote, BTS's stardom is not just about being popular singers, but having influence that can change society and culture, critic Kim added. Quote, the social influence held by BTS is incomparable to any other pop star in recent years. ARMY, formidable in both size and global dispersion, hopes to utilize its size and organization for good causes. Fans have organized widespread charity efforts to honor the members' birthdays and other anniversaries. ARMY's presence around the globe enables them to do charity work that best suits the local environment. So BTS ARMY, I guess that's their big fan club. Is BTS overrated?
Does the Pope wear a funny little hat?
Survey says.
So let me bring up something else. Since we're talking about BTS becoming social justice warriors, I want to, and while you're still here, Anthony, I don't know how long you can hang out, but I would love to get your comments on this too. There seems to be a lot of feminization of men going on. And if you look up K-pop and feminization of men or masculinity, you'll find a ton of articles about it. So, for example, here's one. How K-pop changed the meaning of masculinity in South Korea. I'm going to read a little bit of this. Feel free to interrupt me at any point. Tradition once dominated the ideals and expectations for men in South Korean culture. Then boy bands came along. It says, when 22-year-old K-pop star Yang Jun-il performs on stage, he slays. Sporting an oversized printed jacket over a sleeveless black jumpsuit, he jumps in the air, dances on a chair, flips a fedora onto his head with a slight turn of hand, and seamlessly grabs a microphone. My love, Rebecca, he croons, sweat dripping from his asymmetrical hair to his chin, making its way to his bony clavicle. Who wrote this?
It's an erotic novel. Wow. Wow, keep going.
Ew. Ew. With his milky complexion and glowing skin.
Too far. This is too far.
He looks beautiful. The epitome of a K-pop star. And then they have a beauty ad here. But this is 1991 and South Korea has yet to evolve. This display of flamboyance of outward beauty is so offensive that audiences hiss and boo. Some even throw food at him. Quote, He was hated by many for his unusual looks and songs. This is an article by the Korea Times. His aesthetics and feminine mannerisms were so controversial, he claims, that the government refused to renew his visa. Eventually, his career faded away. Fast forward almost 3 decades later, and it's almost unthinkable that Korean men like Yang would be treated with such vitriol. South Korea has since become the epicenter of beauty, and K-pop men are now synonymous with cosmetics. According to a 2017 finding, South Korea consumes $13 billion worth of cosmetics annually. Under that figure, South Korean men are the #1 male consumers of beauty per capita.
I believe it. Totally. Well, men, how old? I would say age 20,
Something
20?
like that.
Yeah, that's
It's
interesting.
interesting. San Francisco.
I mean, the thing about this is if that is the age that they're describing, if that's the demographic, like maybe ages, up to age 22, around there, that happens to coincide with the mandatory military service that happens over there, and so I believe South Korea is one of the countries where all males at that age are required to go do military service. I know some countries have changed that, like Germany changed it. They don't have mandatory military service anymore. But what I was going to say is that the last 3 years I was in Korea, I was teaching. So the first year I taught elementary school, and the years 2, 3, and 4 I taught at university, which was awesome for a lazy person like me who liked to just get drunk and play music at the time, because the working hours were very easy. But the interesting thing was you could tell there was a huge difference between the freshmen and sophomores, and then the juniors and the seniors, or the guys before they went to do their military service, and then after they came back from the military service. It was like Ethan Hawke at the end of Training Day, where he's just like jaded, and he's like, at the beginning of the movie he's all bright and happy and excited to learn, and then at the end he just wants to kill Denzel Washington. You could see the difference between those two groups, and it's true. You would see. I mean, these guys were checking themselves on the phone, just like the girls were. And taking selfies. I mean, and this was even 10 years ago. This was before selfies were even really a thing. It was happening a lot back then.
Did they have the selfie stick yet?
Yeah, that was the first place I ever saw selfie sticks. I'm sure it was probably happening here at the same time. I was just living there, and in Korea they don't call them selfies. They call them selcas, because of self camera.
Okay.
Sell ka.
So this last sentence I wanted to get to before you started talking about
sorry,
the beauty stuff. Oh no, that's fine. It's just I'm like, I want to read this too, because this is also kind of crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
Not only do they consume 13 billion in cosmetics, but it says a 2018 global data report found that 3/4 of Korean men receive beauty treatments at least once per week. At least once per week. Did you ever get a beauty treatment while you were there?
Yeah, of course. All the time.
I want to know what dating is like in Korea. Like, what are women looking for in men in South Korea?
I don't know. Americans.
Importing Americans,
Australians, and Brits. That's really all that I saw. But they're looking for men with money. They're looking for men that come from important families. They're not looking for necessarily for love. They're looking for someone with just a lot of money and family. Important family, coming from important families. All the superficial stuff.
Why Americans? Because it seems like our work ethic and everything is not the same. Like, why would they think what if it's an American they can tell doesn't have money?
It's exoticism. I mean, you have a foreigner coming to your country who comes from the USA, and it's just common. I mean, I would say it would be pretty common for most American male. I don't want to say all American males, but I mean, I would say a large percentage of American males and foreign males who went over would come back with, or leave home, or stay in South Korea with Korean wives. It's very common. I mean, it almost always happened. I went over with my girlfriend at the time, who actually happened to be half Korean, so it was kind of weird. And then so that was kind of strange. But most foreigners went over. Foreigners went over there, single, and either stayed or came home with Korean wives. But yeah, a lot of them want the thing for Americans or for foreigners is they'll get if they marry a Korean national, they get a special visa, which is an F2 visa. Which basically grants you the same rights as a Korean citizen to operate any business. So you can operate, you can start a brewery, or you can do whatever kind of private business you want. Whereas someone who goes over there with what's called an E2 visa has to be renewed annually, and there's more rules you have to play by, and you certainly can't earn money under the table. So that's kind of a mutual incentive, and then also, a lot of the Koreans want to learn English. They want to learn about Western culture, that kind of thing.
In the same way that a lot of young Americans are just they're just caught up in the K-pop stuff and exoticism and all that too.
Exactly.
Adam Worrell in the chat says, Brits, you say? They like Brits?
There's plenty of Brits over there. There's plenty of Brits over there with Korean wives, or Korean husbands. Female Brits with Korean husbands.
And then
Gary, he had a chat.
Gary Thomas, thank you for the super chat, $5. He says, there are few K-pop stars who are biracial. Some are Eurasian, some are Blasian. A few are even just Japanese, Chinese, Vietnamese, or Thai.
Chinese, look at these.
We were saying there are some people who it's not all Korean kids who are in these K-pop schools. Okay. Did you witness that? There's people from other countries sending their kids there.
I didn't see that, but it makes sense. It makes sense because the culture, everything in Asia, like the pecking order or the way that culture and everything streams down is from Japan to Korea to and then it does like a Y to China and then to like Southeast Asia. So everything kind of does that. So it makes sense that South Korea would be looked at as this. I didn't see it back then, but it makes sense now. This having been 10 years. But that's also other parts of culture like television shows. The Korean dramas are huge in Asia and all over Asia. The South Korean dramas, like soap operas, stuff like that.
Did you ever see the Conan O'Brien episode where he goes to Korea and he gets a role in one of those Korean dramas?
No.
It's hilarious.
I think I might have seen a highlight of it, but I never saw the whole.
I never saw the whole
that. I love Conan.
I never saw that either. Okay, I'm going to continue a little bit with this article about the changing masculinity.
Keep reading, gosh.
K-pop has helped to change masculinity. Okay, today's Korean man looks completely different than he did 3 decades ago. But how did South Korea progress so quickly? And how did Korean culture at large, once performatively hyper-masculine, evolve into an arbiter of cosmetics equality? It all has to do with South Korea's obsession with competition. According to Edward Kang, who was a music producer in Korea and is now a PhD student researching the intersection of pop culture and normativity at the Edinburgh School for Communication and Journalism, et cetera, pressure to succeed also expands to one's aesthetics. And it starts at a very young age. Quote, similar to the way parents invest heavily in their children's educations, common high school or middle school graduation gifts from parents to their children are double eyelid surgeries.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's definitely true. South Korea is racist. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And then furthermore, it says, as is now common knowledge, job recruitment sites in South Korea frequently require headshots on potential candidates' resumes. That's what you said.
Yeah, I think it's all teens, but that's sort of like a rite of passage to have your eyelids done. And someone was telling me that South Korea was the plastic surgery capital of the world, I want to say. I mean, maybe just Asia, but I think it's so common over there to get that done. Yeah, everybody does that. And that's just one of the things they do. They get nose surgery. The South Koreans in general are, they don't like their faces. I mean, they just don't like their faces because typically speaking, South Koreans, one of the features of typical Korean feature is to have a kind of a wide, like large cheekbones and to have a wide face. And so, and small noses, and they don't like that. So they'll get these this surgery. They'll basically get nose implants. Well, they'll have what's called a garlic nose, and so they would typically go up to a Westerner and say like, "Oh, you have very nice garlic nose," and that meant like, it's like a garlic clove that kind of goes out, and so women would get that too. That might have been later on. That might not have been exactly right out of high school, but the double eyelid surgery for sure.
I just looked it up. It is called the cosmetic surgery capital of the world. It says they perform 24% of all cosmetic surgeries.
Wow. Yeah.
Did you
So they
say
basically all want like Michael Jackson noses?
Well, no, they want the opposite because didn't his get smaller over time?
Yeah. Oh, they want it large.
They want it large. They want a big
Ah.
nose. They want a big nose. They want like the mustache, the disguise, the glasses,
Groucho Marx.
The Groucho Marx. That's their archetype of beauty.
Okay.
I danced for pennies. Thank you for the
Whoa.
big super chat. Is that 100 Australian dollars? Is that Algerian? That's Australian.
It's Antarctican.
There's Antarctica dollars. Thank you so
Antarctican
much, sir.
dollars.
Thank you for supporting the channel. Appreciate it.
My favorite
Wow.
time you say British lira.
British lira. That just shocked me. I was like, wow. Okay, so they get a lot of plastic surgery. I think it's kind of sad that a lot of parents, they said graduation gifts, they could buy them the double eyelid surgery. I know what the woke say about this. They say it's part of white supremacist culture and that they want to, look more like white people. And do you think that's what's going on? I thought I heard you say, Mystery Chris, that it seems kind of racist.
He did say that. It's kind of funny.
Excuse me. Are you still there?
Are you asking Anthony or me?
I'm asking you.
Oh, well, sorry. What's the question
again? You said it was kind of racist. When I was talking about the double eyelid surgery, you're like, that's kind of racist.
Yeah, because it'd be racist to do the opposite.
What do you mean?
Are they making their eyes larger? That's what I assume when they say the eyelid surgeries. Yeah. So, I mean, if they want to do it, the Mickey Rourke thing where they give them the goofy Asian eyes, that's racist.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think there's definitely something there about, yes, I think, sometimes the woke, I'll say this, they bury a kernel of truth in this really awful racist, sexist ideology, but there are kernels of truth in there. And I do think there's some truth to what they say about some Asian cultures where there's sort of glorification of whiteness and they're all using skin bleaching stuff or, skin lightening creams and the eyelid surgery and all that. Did people seem to use a lot of the skin lightening stuff?
Lightening there?
Yeah.
No.
Oh,
no, I didn't know. Maybe I didn't really pay attention to that, but I don't think that was. There was certainly a lot of skin cream there, a lot of anti-aging stuff and that kind of thing. There is also there is also a really great side to South Korean culture. A lot of really wonderful things that I learned there about just in general about life. But I mean, unfortunately, that's not what we're talking about today, though.
That's not what we're talking about today.
Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes, dear.
No. No, I know. You feel like you had to do the caveat. I'm the same way. If I talk about some negative aspect of being in another place, and then I'm like, oh, but there are so many great.
I can trash on Korea all day long right now. I can trash on Korea all day. You just give me say the word. I don't.
Well, we're going to talk about K-pop before we get off of this masculinity topic, because this is one of the most interesting and fascinating to me. Is they haven't just, so that article was about redefining masculinity in Korea, but there are also papers and articles about how they're redefining masculinity here in the States as well, because there are so many young people who are consuming this content, this music, this culture. And this is the most fascinating to me because, as I mentioned, I know some younger people who are really into K-pop, and I don't understand. It seems like, one of these articles we read, Anthony compared it to the British invasion when all the young people were freaking out over the Beatles and all the different British bands. And they loved their music, but a lot of the women also really, were attracted to these guys and these bands. And so I assume the same can be said of young people and K-pop stars. Like they find these guys attractive. Why? What is
Well,
that?
if you think about it, maybe it's because they do possess feminine qualities, and something that these guys are considered beautiful, which is generally a word used to describe females, and maybe that's something somewhere inside of them that they aspire to. They're thin, they have nice hair, their faces are perfect. It's kind of what the Beatles were. The Beatles were, remember that when the Beatles came on the scene, they were a long hair band. Their hair was considered long hair. I mean, they were hippies, and today their haircuts were actually pretty normal. Maybe even, I don't know, certainly nothing out of the ordinary. But maybe it's just because of the feminine qualities they represent. They have some feminine qualities, the stars do, and women maybe find that somehow desirable, and they want to emulate that themselves or recreate that on their own.
I don't know. Do you get it, Mystery Chris?
So it kind of remind you a little bit of hair metal bands and all the makeup men would wear, and they still got a lot of groupies.
Yeah, that's true, because you look at like Axl Rose and even back to Led Zeppelin, like Robert Plant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they just look like they look like women. David Lee Roth, all those guys.
So am I just being kind of an old person then? I mean, look at these pictures.
Yeah.
These don't look like men to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it. I mean,
they don't even look real.
They need to go into the military. Learn what it's like to be a real man. Speaking of military service, I can't remember which K-pop star it was, but there was a K-pop star who got out of military service by pulling out his teeth, like the required amount of teeth, so that he would be below the required amount of teeth that you have to serve in the military. And it worked until he got busted, and then he's a pariah. I don't know what his name is, but it was a really big deal. He lost his whole fan base because of that. But it's sort of like a before and after of this sort of male versus the male around 22 years old, 23 years old.
So do they become more masculine after that age? Is that what you're saying?
Because they've gone into the military. They've gone into military service, and the military service there is really hard. It's very grueling. I've talked to some of the guys, and there's just, I mean, one of the guys was telling me they don't let you have forks or knives in the military. When you're when you're eating, you have to eat with a spoon all the time. No chopsticks either, because they don't want you to kill yourself or someone else.
Wow.
And it's just a really hard time for those guys, So when they come out of it, they're, they have a different perspective, on life and what's important.
So should I bring up this academic paper just quickly, Mystery Chris? Do you think?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So there are a lot of woke people writing academic papers, essays. As I mentioned, there's a lot of articles, journalists writing articles about K-pop and about how it's a really great thing that they are changing masculinity, that concept of masculinity. And here, let me bring up this piece, because it's not just about Korea. This is a good sample one. This is from Denison University, K-pop's influence on redefining masculinity within heteronormative regimes. Mm-hmm. Now, if you know any of the woke language, you'll recognize immediately heteronormative regime.
Makes up this stuff.
Does that mean they like Trump?
Yes, that's what it means. This paper, we're not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to cover the beginning, the abstract, tell you what it's about. This paper goes in depth discussing the K-pop industry's influential contribution towards redefining the term masculinity. As we move into more progressive and liberal movements within society, the gendered terms that have constricted many individuals are becoming more obsolete as they have undergone critique and analysis. Using an approach that focuses on the cross-cultural forms intersecting queer identity, and gender fluid expressionism. That's a mouthful of woke. We can analyze these new concepts outside of the gender norm. While there will never be one way to perceive masculinity because each culture defines this term differently, but we can understand these perceptions by analyzing cultural productions. As society has built gender to be a strict construct. This is the thing about these woke academic papers is they just say stuff like this, like it's a fact. They just say gender is a social construct. Society created gender, right? It's no biological basis whatsoever. Society has built gender to be a strict construct. Within entertainment and social media platforms, the K-pop industry should be credited for making bold moves to break down this form of toxic masculinity. Not only did the evolution of the K-pop industry show the impact it had on utilizing gendered products and fashion for all, but it also helped build conversation about the essential tenets of the social category of gender itself across the globe. People are now more aware that there are intentional forms of gender within everyday consumer items that help build up the heteronormative status quo. Cross-cultural forms of gender legibility reveal the way heteronormativity regiments masculinity in society by forcing fixed ideals upon individual gender expression. Who's laughing?
Me. So K-pop's responsible for this, for this revolution. This is just guys that haven't done their military service yet. Throw them in the army a couple years. See what happens when they come out.
I mean, they have a point though. I feel like this is contributing to, and it's not just K-pop. I mean, didn't you say before we started, Mr. Chris, that people are saying the same thing about what's his name, Styles?
Harry Styles. Yeah, there's articles about how he's redefining heteronormative, blah blah blah, whatever. And so yeah, kind of pushing all these feminized men into the public sphere and then trying to hope young men will model themselves after that. But I don't know, are there young teenage men that are saying, I want to look like fill in the blank case pop star? Like, is that really catching on
here in the States?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's hard to gauge how big it is, because online there's, these people have a big voice and they would have you believe everyone is a gender now or, bi gender or whatever, gender fluid. And so I don't know. But in Korea, I mean, they're clearly going to these schools to learn how to be K-pop stars. So they're teaching the boys how to be, do they have makeup classes?
Ooh.
Maybe makeup Hogwans. But I mean, it's just the time is right here in the US for something like this to really achieve its ultimate popularity, because this is a fertile ground for that. This is a time, and this is a place where a group of effeminate boys can become very popular, and they're accepted not based on the quality of their musicianship and their dancing skills, but their appearance and their identity. And so now it's a great time for that to come. The time is ripe for that to come to the U.S. and to be not only to be accepted, but to thrive in a business sense and economically. And I'd also be interested in knowing if South Korea is still this way. But they're coming from like I mentioned before, they're coming from a culture that's still stuck several decades socially behind the U.S. or behind the West. And what that also included was turning a blind eye to homosexuality. There were no gays in South Korea. Everyone, you understand what I'm saying? There are no gays here. Do you see any gays? I don't. And then in between classes, the boys would run. Several of them would run together. There were 10-minute passing periods, and they would run and lock themselves in the bathroom stalls with each other for like 10 minutes. I mean, that would happen. So that's obviously suppressed over there. And we could get into all that, but it's something that's suppressed in their culture and something that is celebrated here. So it just makes sense that this, while it has been popular for several years now, it's nothing. This isn't brand new. The time now is it's making sense that they are going to the White House and teaming up with BLM, and they're kind of using their both sides are benefiting from this.
Yeah.
I mean, now they have another now our left or our establishment has another poster child to hold up and say, see, guys.
Yeah.
and
Someone
girls.
in the chat is very insistent, so I'll just read this out for you. Kat Hua says, "I'm tired of saying it's stage makeup." Yeah, but it's still effeminate. I mean, the whole point is, there are articles, there are essays, there's people writing about it, whether they're praising it or criticizing it, like I am. It's an feminization of men, and it's changing masculinity, if you want to take the word of some of the articles that are praising it, whether it's stage makeup. So you're saying they don't wear the the eyeliner and the stuff at home. I understand that. It's still, they are presenting a very effeminate picture of men, of heartthrobs, and that's what's interesting to me, is that suddenly that's what the girls, I guess, young girls are like, oh, these guys are hot and the music's hot. That's weird to me. Maybe it shouldn't be. I mean, when I was young, I was also briefly into the New Kids on the Block, and they were pretty effeminate now that I'm thinking about it.
In KOTB.
NKOTV, yeah.
You remember when they as their popularity started to decline, gangster rap came about, and so they tried to become more like gangster and hard, and so that's when they became NKOTB, and they tried to make like gangster rap pop.
These cycles, I guess, because they were very effeminate, and I found a lot of the American boy bands I never got into. It was a little after my time. I never got into, like, what were they all called? NSYNC, and what was the other one?
Backstreet Boys.
None of that
98
stuff.
Degrees.
Yeah.
98 Degrees.
98 Degrees.
That was the end of Western music.
My fire.
So I have this article that Mr. Chris sent me, and this is kind of funny. Do you want to read this one, Chris, or should I?
You can read it.
Kim Jong-un says that K-pop is a vicious cancer that merits work camps and execution. What?
Based.
Sounds like he's been talking and hanging out with Trump a little too long.
What? This is from this is from 2021. Kim Jong-un is cracking down on DPRK pop fans. Amid increasing cultural influence from South Korea, the 37-year-old North Korean leader is imposing harsher penalties on citizens caught listening to, quote, perverse K-pop music. Wow.
They're from the devil.
The secretive anti-K-pop campaign came to light through internal documents smuggled out of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea by the Seoul-based news source Daily NK. I thought for a second it was going to say by documents smuggled out of the DNC. These were then made public by South Korean legislators. The newly slimmed down DPRK despot had dubbed the Southern cultural imports a, quote, vicious cancer, corrupting North Korean youth's, quote, attire, hairstyles, speeches, behaviors, a la the dancing in the 80s movie Footloose, but with a much darker bent.
He's got a point. He's a psychopath, but I mean...
You think he has a point?
I mean, it is. I mean, not that North Korea is a functioning republic or anything. It's, I mean, poor people, but still, I mean.
Well, this is, we're laughing, but this article gets pretty dark here. It says, in an apparent bid to launch his own brand of cancel culture, Kim introduced new laws in December stipulating that anyone caught watching or possessing South Korean content could be sentenced to up to 15 years of hard labor. The previous maximum punishment for fans of popular acts such as BTS was 5 years.
Not in my house. That's what he said. Not in my house. And probably all their families too. Probably the parents and the grandparents. They all go to the prison.
Wow. 15 years of hard labor. If that wasn't harsh enough, K-pop smugglers could even face execution, while those caught singing, speaking, or writing in a, quote, South Korean style could be sentenced to 2 years at a work camp per the smuggled documents. This past May, a citizen was killed via firing squad for hawking bootleg South Korean music and other entertainment. Isn't that crazy?
But I'm curious, like, if, like, say he wasn't so strict on this music, like, would that lead to people demanding more a democracy in their country? I mean, I understand he's a dictator and this is what they do, but still, I can't imagine the influence would actually lead to something that would threaten his power.
I don't know. This is just, I'm still just flabbergasted that this is even, death is on the table.
Well,
So
yeah, it's not surprising in North Korea. I mean, it's the most, it's the most oppressive regime. I don't know. At least it was at one point the most oppressive regime in the world. I mean, just speaking out against in any way or not worshiping him as, because they equate him to a deity. He's God. And so anything that would, I don't know if it's something that would necessarily threaten his authority, like Mr. Chris was saying. It's not. I don't think it's that. I think it's just complete. It's just power. It's just a power thing.
Right.
I don't want anything, and I don't want any of that weird stuff in my house. Get that out of here. Get that gay stuff out of here. You know what I mean? I mean that's
Yeah. I mean,
I mean,
like, sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I mean, there's other reasons for torture. There's in prison, and soccer teams that didn't win, soccer team, goalkeepers that let the winning goal through in the World Cup decades ago, and even 10 years ago when the North Korean soccer team lost like 9-1 against, I don't know, some team in the World Cup in 2010. I mean, there's also all kinds of horrible things always, and all kinds of brainwashing, and I mean, and talk about pressure to succeed and bring national pride to North Korea through the arts and all kinds of things. It also probably comes down to just pure straight up jealousy. I mean, North Korea and South Korea are just they're just enemies. They don't like each other.
Well, it's like in the Soviet Union, how they were banning a lot of music and pop culture stuff coming from the West because they certainly didn't want people seeing just how much more superior capitalism was compared to communism.
Exactly.
But North Korea being in the state that it's in, I don't think it's hard for people to understand that South Korea is still better than North Korea, no matter how much they try to stifle any kind of pop culture information coming from South Korea to North Korea.
I mean, there was severe punishment for owning a chicken in North Korea. I don't remember exactly what it was. I don't think it was death, but I'm pretty sure maybe imprisonment was somewhere, up there, somewhere in the realm of punishment. But yeah, you had to be completely dependent upon the state. At one point, I don't remember when that was exactly, but recently.
I Dance for Pennies gave us a super chat, 20 Australian dollars. Thank you, sir. He has a comment this time. He says, "What in Western culture is the lasting influence of the emos and the goths?"
Well, it's interesting you bring that up. I actually want to do a future show on goths.
What is the lasting influence? Is there one? I mean, because I think his point is that according to all these articles, according to the popularity of these K-pop bands, as you said, billions and billions of views, and all of these, everyone's basically saying, oh, they're redefining masculinity, they're redefining it and making it so you can be more gender fluid or more, effeminate as a man and still be a sex symbol and all this. Is there a lasting cultural influence from the emos and goths?
The Cure.
Well, they're all happy. They make more happy music though. Got very happy. I don't know, because when we, if we do a show on goths, I kind of want to explore what happens to goths as they grow older, because you don't see a whole lot of older goth people. It just seems to flame out after a while. Maybe it's kind of anti-authority, counterculture that just eventually gets absorbed into the larger culture. So
I think for the most part it flames out because it's sort of that phase that you go through when you're a kid, like, oh, I'm in with this group and this is what's cool and this is the way I rebel, and what's interesting now is a lot of that, the way that kids rebel now sometimes could have more permanent lasting consequences, because a lot of kids are rebelling by saying, oh, me too, I'm trans too. And then if they go down the medical and surgical route of transitioning, it's not like, when they come out of that phase, which we're seeing with the detransitioners, you have this lasting physical consequence to that phase, which we didn't have as rave kids or goth kids or whatever group we were in. You have a great point. Okay, I'm rethinking my stance here. 6079 Smith says, Kiss, on the other hand, were always gay. And you know what? I think I am. Is this a case of me just being an old fogey? Because if I think back, there have always been bands that have had, effeminate presentations of masculinity, with the, like we talked about Freddie Mercury and David Bowie, but also, all the hair metal bands.
Yeah.
I think they were pretty open about their womanizing though, and that was sometimes it was part of the stage theatrics. Like if you want to take Kiss for example, Gene Simmons with his long tongue, I mean that was his trademark, that he would flash his tongue, in a sexually suggestive way at the females in the audience at every show, and he had a particularly long tongue, and I think that's the difference. These guys aren't doing that. These guys are just saying, I'm happy to be kind of an effeminate guy. And the hair metal guys were it was muscle rock. It was like womanizing. How many girls am I going to get to bed with?
Maybe that's what's missing here. I'm just thinking out loud, but the hair metal guys, it seemed it was this sort of intriguing mix of, and Prince too. Prince was like this mix of masculinity and femininity together. But at the end of the day, they were still very masculine. For some reason, I don't look at these K-pop guys. I just don't get that. I don't get a very masculine presence from them at all. It just seems like a very effeminate presence.
Well, masculine kind of sexuality that was, coming from those artists, but these seem very asexual. It's almost like more Michael Jackson-ish kind of.
Yes.
I do want to kind of say something though. There's somebody named CJ. Yeah, there he is.
CJ, thank you for the $5 super chat. You want to read to Anthony?
Yeah, he says, as a Korean man, these kind of K-pop groups embarrass us. Trust me, we're not all like that. He's exactly right, and that's kind of what I was trying to allude to earlier. That there are, I hate to say it, but there's this way, but there are the cool Koreans. There are the Koreans who are they can't get enough of Western rock and roll and punk, and they own cool bars. There was the town that I lived in, a city called Busan, South Korea, at the south of South Korea. And it was the second largest city in. There's this road. He just climbed right up. So I'm sorry. He's like
somebody asked to see Tiger earlier. There
Tiger, he likes K-pop. Tell him, Tiger.
Here, let me hold on.
This is my favorite band. This is my favorite band, guys.
That's not true. He's not into K-pop.
All the words. That's where I learned how to speak Korean. Tiger, did you know that if you play a BTS record backwards, they say, I want to eat a dog?
No, they don't say this.
But there were a couple of bars, a particular bar owner that had just walls of American vinyl, man. He was the coolest guy in the world. He really was a big supporter of Western bands coming in, the English teachers that played music to come in. And so there were several amazing Korean in Busan, just amazing Korean bands. And we put on shows with several of them. You'd have like Korean punk bands, Korean metal bands. There was even a Korean Irish music, traditional Celtic band in my town, all Koreans. So there's definitely a group, although it's a small group, and it's not, it's a small group of people. It's a subculture for sure. But yes, he's right. And I hope CJ understands that, we are just talking about
the K-pop stuff.
The K-pop stuff. And
yeah, I do understand that.
We're not dogging on everybody. CJ. I'd like to know what CJ stands for. I bet it's like, I want to see his Korean name.
Katwa wants to know if you can speak some Korean.
안녕하십니까. 어서오세요. That's it. I could say some other things, but I'd have to.
What'd you say about my mama?
I can say some cuss words. Now, actually, I spoke with the people in the supermarket the other day. I was telling Keri that they were making sushi, and sushi is Japanese, and they were speaking Korean, and so I started speaking Korean to them. I'm conversational, but I can keep it going. But it's bad. I sound stupid when I speak Korean, but I studied a lot, and it's a tough language.
Didn't you do a language swap while you were there?
I did many language swaps while I was there with many different kinds of people. And what that means is that, it would just be an hour of English and then we'd switch to an hour of Korean. But that was also cool because we would keep in touch with each other during the week, and I would text in Korean. So I had a lot of practice texting in Korean, and just random people. Like it's just, I met an old lady on the subway one time. She saw me studying Korean in my book. She was like, "Oh," so we ended up just meeting at the subway stop where we met, for like 6 months. And she was much older than me, and it was weird because I came home to visit Texas and I took her back a gift of like some Texas pecans, a box of Texas pecans with the Texas state flag on it. And she was like, "Oh, thank you." And I never saw her again. She just ghosted me. I don't know. I don't know if she had a husband that didn't like that, or maybe she was embarrassed because she couldn't return the gift to me in some way. Because they're really big. It's a big gift culture. Really, there's a whole etiquette around giving gifts there. So maybe that was part of the deal.
And I just wanted to highlight one more comment from Kendra Souter. Thank you, Kendra. She says, "Do you know how hard it is to knit, read this chat, and die laughing and listen to this intelligent conversation at the same time? I love Wednesday night." Yay! I'm glad. We love Wednesday night too. I love hanging out with you guys. And Mystery Chris. They're all saying that lady, the old lady that you did the lessons with, was a Korean cougar.
Yeah. Probably. Who knows?
Should I read more of this, Chris?
I think you got the gist of it.
But one thing I wanted to say too, that article was talking about was how it was something about the industrialization of South Korea, or how quickly Korea has been trying to adapt to the rest of the world. And wasn't there something in the article like that? I don't remember, but I remember there being something along those lines. And we have to remember that even South Korea back not too long ago, 70 years ago, was a rural country that was occupied by Japan, and it was a farming community. Now look, they have LG and Samsung, and they have high rises, and they have K-pop, and the Korean people are very resilient if you think about it in that context. And if you look at their traditional food is fermented vegetables that are buried in the ground in red bean paste. And that's still part of their traditional cuisine, because that's how they survived. That's how they survived those years and those times at the beginning of the 1900s, and then all the way through the occupation of Japan occupying them, and and then they rose from the ashes. That's one thing that really amazed me when I was living there, because you would see these high rises right next to these one-story traditional homes with the clay shingles and the traditional doors. And it was just a real beautiful statement to see how far the Koreans have come in such a short time, on the world stage.
Yeah, so many changes. And even within the span of, like that article saying, within the past 20 years, just culturally, to view an effeminate male performer as somehow scandalous, and now to be the face of sort of effeminate male music performers. Chris, what should I bring up next?
Do you want to talk about Psy?
Sure.
Psy.
Yeah.
Gangnam Style.
Who could forget Psy?
Mother, Father, Gentleman. That was his next hit after Gangnam Style. I'm a mother, father, gentleman.
Do you know he did a song with Snoop Dogg?
What? No.
Yeah.
What's wrong with Snoop, man? What's he smoking?
Oh, Psy.
So,
So,
you want me to read this or what?
you can read a little bit of that first paragraph. I mainly brought it up to read the Gangnam Style section, but.
Psy, whose real name is Park Jae-sang, is a singer, rapper, songwriter, and record producer, and arguably the best-known person in South Korea. His mega hit Gangnam Style in 2012, I can't believe it was that long ago already, was one of the biggest hits to come out of Asia, or for that matter, the entire world. Korea. YouTube, this is written in a weird way. YouTube said the video for the song is its most watched video ever, having been viewed almost 4 billion times as of late 2020.
It's almost 5 billion now.
5 billion. Wow. The strange thing about Psy, though, is that he's not really K-pop. He's more anti-K-pop. He's short, overweight, and makes fun of himself.
Isn't that interesting when you think about it?
Yeah. Like,
he's one of those guys that you just kind of can't help but love him. I remember feeling when I was there as well. It's like, this is awesome.
And you're right. He is sort of the anti-K-pop. In a way, but it's funny because a lot of these articles, if you start reading about the history of K-pop, a lot of them credit him with being the beginning of, the third generation of K-pop. K-pop is known more for its well-rehearsed, perfectly synced, slicked-back sound, Psy has fronted a range of products from Hype Beer and Samsung refrigerators to a line of cosmetics for men called Man's Balm.
If you go down to the Gangnam Style section, I think it's the underneath. Let's see, is that the one? Now keep going. Let's see which section it was. Or maybe that was the section. Yeah, go ahead and
just read the Gangnam Style.
Yeah, please.
John Seberg wrote in the New Yorker, ironically, for all the money that the agencies invest in idol making in South Korea, the success of Psy, the first Korean pop star to break out in the U.S., took place largely outside of the factory system. Well, isn't that always the way it goes? It's like somebody does something original, and then there's a huge rush to copy it.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what always happens. So, Psy is with the YG agency, but he has never been idol material. His first album, Psy from the Psycho World, was condemned for inappropriate content, and his second, Sa 2, was banned for anyone under 19. In 2001, he was arrested and fined for smoking pot, and during his mandatory military service, he neglected his duties and had to serve again. He's a Korean pop star, but he's not K-pop, and by satirizing standard K-pop tropes in Gangnam Style, Psy may have subverted K-pop's chances of making it big in the West. When was this written?
True. Yeah, that's not true.
They don't know what happened. At the very least, that a pudgy guy with a goofy dance can succeed where the most brilliantly engineered idol groups have not, suggests that cultural technology can only get you so far. That's really...
There was a part that talked about Gangnam Style specifically, what it meant. Let's see, what part is it? Okay, yeah, scroll down to the section that says what Gangnam Style is about.
Is that in the next section?
Underneath. Yeah, keep going, you'll see it. Can't miss it. There we go.
What Gangnam Style is about. Gangnam is an affluent neighborhood in Seoul that Psy knows well because he grew up there.
It's Gangnam.
Is it?
Gangnam.
You should just say it. You read this part.
Gangnam Style. Yeah, it's a neighborhood in Seoul. That's basically it.
The Gangnam of the title is Seoul's wealthiest residential and shopping district, lined with luxury boutiques, top-end bars, and restaurants frequented by celebrities and well-heeled, designer-clad socialites. The video pokes fun at the district's lifestyle, with Psy breezing through a world of speedboats, yoga classes, and exclusive clubs, all the while performing an eccentric horse-riding dance accompanied by beautiful models. And so they're talking about how he's sort of making fun of all of these Novu Riche because their real estate values skyrocketed overnight. I don't know. What did you find interesting about that, Chris?
There one last section about the Open Gangnam Style, where it talks about it translates to I'm Gangnam Style.
Mm-hmm.
Can you read that section?
Oppan is a Korean expression used by women to refer to older males, but Kim points out Psy refers to himself in the third person, and he keeps saying that he lives or loves the Gangnam Style. I can't say it now, babe. You can say it.
Gangnam.
I'm never going to be able to get that right. But in reality, he's far from it, which is evident as the video progresses. One notable example, when he looks like P. Diddy sitting in a chair, it's actually the toilet that he's sitting on. Most Koreans are fed up with all these Novu Riches and Gangnam who became rich because their real estate values skyrocketed overnight. That was the section?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, I just think it's fascinating. Like we were saying, how he was kind of the start of K-pop. And I know they say he's anti-K-pop, but still the start of the Korean music having a big presence in the West, particularly on a song that was so like silly and it's just over the top, which I remember talking to some Korean people that were talking about how they considered him a joke, like before he made it big in the US. Now he's always kind of just a ridiculous kind of guy, but having this huge success.
I thought he was a joke here too, even though he was a success. Like, weren't we all kind of laughing? It was supposed to be funny, right?
Kind of, yeah, because it was just so weird. People are laughing at like how weird it was. It's like, what?
Not that it wasn't great. It was just there was a sense of humor to it.
Yeah, and people could do the dance. That was easy to do. So yeah, very interesting.
He's like the Big Bopper of South Korea.
Yeah.
Hello, baby. Gangnam Style.
Did you want me to pull up this video also?
Yeah, and probably just mute it. Although, and you go to the 3-minute mark. Although maybe just play a couple seconds of the song. So this is a performance he did with MC Hammer, which on paper sounds ridiculous, but if you actually watch the video, it's one of the most badass things you've ever seen. And yeah, so this is from the American Music Awards back in 2012. And again, just maybe mute it after a couple seconds. So
okay. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you have to like the whole thing and get all the full effect with the music though. But one of the impressive things here is one that MC Hammer was in his 50s doing this dance, and two,
Wow.
Psy can keep up with him because I thought Psy couldn't dance, but he's actually a decent dancer.
He's great. This is great. I wish we could hear the song without getting a strike. Here, let's listen to another second.
Oh,
I love that mashup.
Sigh. You know what's funny about Psy is that he looks like every shady Korean middle-aged club owner that's like in the just the the streets of all the little Korean towns. And I played in some of those, and it's just like out of a movie. It's hilarious. They all look like gangsters, and some of them are. It's a Korean mafia.
We have a good question for you, Anthony, from Catwa. She says, anything positive to say about K-pop? And thanks for replying.
Well, I replied in the chat, and I said, unfortunately, no.
You did say that?
I think we were chatting back and forth, but I mean, I didn't. It's not something. It's not kind of music that speaks to me. I think it's a little bit. I mean, I think it's great. People enjoy what they enjoy, and that's great. And I'm not gonna harp on anybody that wants to enjoy terrible music. Just kidding. But,
Wow.
No, but I don't. I mean, I'm just joking. I was joking. But it's terrible. But if people want to enjoy what they enjoy, that's fine. I just found for example, when I was teaching students, I think a lot of the younger generation, a lot of the young kids nowadays, they kind of, once a generation has passed, or maybe a little longer than a generation, typically, kids will forget what came before the great music, and what the music that they find that they're listening to today that they find great, what inspired that music and what came before it. And I found like a lot of my students, we all know that K-pop comes from the West. It comes from the boy bands, and the boy bands, like you were saying earlier, come from the bands from the 60s, maybe, from that format or that. And so there's a little bit of a history there. And I think people kind of all over the world, owe it to themselves to know a little bit about our greatest export, which is rock and roll. And I found like most of my students, we would do our music units, and I would teach them about we would learn how to describe music and things that we liked in movies, and use descriptive words and adjectives. And I was teaching them what all those were. And I found that I would end up having like a PowerPoint and show them different artists. And I would show them a PowerPoint of Elvis, a picture of Elvis, and nobody knew who he was. And I would show them a picture of the Beatles, and they didn't know who they were. And I would show them a picture of Bob Dylan, and nobody knew who they were. And then I would show them a picture of whatever the K-pop was at the time, 10 years ago, and they all started screaming. And
I feel like that's young people in the States now too, though.
Yeah, but at least they know who Elvis is. I mean, I think you could ask any young person here, and they would generally know who Elvis is.
Like, oh, that racist guy from the 50s. Yeah.
That guy that stole the music from the black people.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing that we haven't talked about as far as the Korean music goes is K-pop is very popular with the youth. But what's equally, maybe even more popular is what they call ballade or ballad, as we say. And that's sort of like the Michael Bolton style of singing, like, just real
It's so
syrupy, saccharine,
cheesy.
cheesy, I mean, that is huge over there, huge. And that would be the itch that we scratch of the Korean adults. That would be the thing that they really enjoy. And you can also get into karaoke, or as they call them over there, the noraebang in South Korea. I mean, that is just such a huge part of their culture. Singing is a massive part of Korean culture, and which is another important thing to note here is, and that stems from the Korean opera, Korean folk singing from back at the time of, well, just throughout their history. But what the Koreans, like, what we would call maybe in Delta, or in music, or in rock and roll, or in blues, that comes from the Delta blues, with as what we would call here in the United States or in the West, soul. Someone has a lot of soul. Man, that guy got a lot of soul. He sings a lot of soul. In South Korea, they call it Han, or Han. And they would always say that about a singer. That singer has Han. He's got the soul, the Korean soul. And so they can recognize that purity within a person and how they sing. And I think they really see that as a symbol of kind of who you are, as a person, and how you sing. And so that's why singing is so important in the K-pop world, in the ballad world, and in the noraebang world. They can really see that person. And it's such to express yourself through singing is really important and really highly valued in Korean culture. Also, how many bottles of soju you can drink.
Kevin's asking, like the ballad music from the 50s? No. I'm going to play you just a little clip of a Korean ballad. Here we go. You get it?
Yeah, my pants are off.
I actually wanted to do a quick game with Mystery Chris, but I don't know how we can play it without, and you might have to close your eyes. Okay, so close your eyes during this segment, okay? Can you do that? Yeah, you.
Oh, that's scary. Okay.
I'm going to play you a short clip because I have a theory that K-pop and actually Korean ballad, they both remind me of Christian pop music. And I think so I'm just going to play you a short clip of two songs back to back. One song is going to be K-pop and one song is going to be Christian pop. And I want to see if you can tell which is which. Can we do this?
Let's do it.
Okay. Now you have to close your eyes starting now because I don't know how else to play this music without pulling up the video. So here we go. And I've got it queued up. So the audience can see what this is, but you can't. Okay, here we go. So far away you're gone. Okay, that's the first clip. Okay, and then this is the second clip.
You see right through the mess inside me.
Okay, which one was the first one? The Christian pop or the K-pop?
It's got to be K-pop.
How did you know?
It just sounded like.
Was it the accent? I mean, I found a little clip where they were singing in English, but you can still hear the accent.
Yeah, but yeah, it just sounded more like a K-pop than a Christian song. So.
Is it just me? I think they sound very similar.
A little bit. Second one sounded a little younger too.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for playing that game. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I comment on something real quick?
Yeah.
So somebody in the comments was saying, well, we're going to assume that K-pop would be in Korean, and I And I just said, don't underestimate the ability of Koreans to embarrass themselves publicly with their English skills, because a lot of times in so some of the K-pop now is being sung in English, I guess.
Yeah.
And I would bet money, if I had a lot of money, that a lot of the English is probably very wrong. because they are in South Korea, businesses and people that businesses putting things on permanent in permanent fixtures like signs or whatever, television shows or K-pop songs, they don't do what any kind of person with common sense would, which is to ask a foreigner that lives in your town to proofread the English for you. They don't do that. And we had there were blogs going on with like bad English signs and bad English t-shirts, and there's some hilarious ones. And I saw some amazing signs over there. But I'll tell you the best sign. I mean, it was like the champagne of bad English signs. It was this bakery that was right by the beach, and it said that they were describing their bakery. It said, "The place from which tastiness is transmitted." That was their slogan.
It's great.
That was the slogan for their bakery. Yeah, that's catchy.
By the way, if I tried to sing in another language, I would embarrass myself very quickly.
Of course.
Well,
but you would also ask a native speaker to proofread anything that you try to put. That's what you do if you're trying to learn a foreign language. I've done that many times. I always if I'm ever when I was living in Germany, or if I'm translating, I've translated songs from English to Spanish for people. I'll ask a native speaker to please proofread this for me and make sure it doesn't sound like an idiot. That's what you do. And these guys are spending thousands of dollars on these signs or K-pop songs or whatever. And I guarantee you, they're probably not asking native speakers to proofread their work.
It reminds me of The Simpsons, that episode where Homer, they take some Japanese company takes his likeness and use it for like a cleaning company called Mr. Sparkle. I am disrespectful to that. It reminds me of this.
Oh, if we have time, can we watch some old Asian commercials at the end?
Do it, yeah.
You're already over, but
yeah.
I just have to I don't want to get too far behind on super chats. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for supporting the show. Ideas for pennies, man. You're bringing it tonight. Thank you for the $10 Australian super chat. I don't see a comment there. If there was one, it didn't show up. So just drop it in the chat. Not another super chat. Just drop what you said in the chat, and someone will start for me. Your average Patriot nerd for $1.99 sends a super sticker. I can't see what the sticker is either. Maybe there's something wrong on my end. But thank you so much. And then I just had a question. Vermont Chatter earlier said, "Unskinny bop is hardcore. Don't you make fun?" What is that?
Unskinny bop bop bop.
Is that
hair metal?
Oh,
so
I think I do now. Okay, what else from your list should I bring up, Chris?
Let's
Dark
see.
Side, or did we?
Oh yeah. Do you want to bring it real quick? We can go through it real quick because it's sectioned off. Like there's like paragraphs, and each one has a title, so you just want to skim through it. But I thought it was interesting because, like we talked briefly about earlier, there is a very dark side to this. So whichever one's kind of kept your attention, you just scroll on down.
So this is an article on Ranker called "The Dark Side of the K-pop Industry and Idol Groups." And it's talking about look at this sentence. "Unfortunately, the candy-colored sheen coats a sinister underbelly with ugly truths about K-pop. From a young age, these bright and peppy performers essentially enter an uncaring, exploitative environment harem in the K-pop industry." Let's just start with this one. "Music executives have extreme control over the stars' personal lives. In the 1940s, Hollywood executives were notorious for having a substantial amount of control over their movie stars. Actors were under multi-year and multi-film contracts. They dealt with abuse, stringent rules, and relative ownership at the hands of the studios. Modern K-pop groups experience a similar system where 3 major management companies dominate the industry. Members of Korean idol groups have little freedom over their personal lives. As a manufactured entity meant for selling dreams, they must uphold their employer's image at all times. In many cases, this includes not dating or doing anything too seemingly independent. in the realm of politics. There's that rule that we talked about earlier that BTS has been breaking, where they're not supposed to talk about politics. Consider the case of Taiwanese K-pop idol Chao Suyu, who waved a Taiwanese flag during a televised performance and then had to apologize for it publicly.
That's surprising. Well, I mean, if it was, Chinese, then yeah, I would understand that. But Korean, do they even care?
I mean, it sounds like, BTS may be single-handedly changing some of these rules about whether they can have political messaging or not. This one is what we kind of already talked about. This is the boot camps. Many idols go through a 10-year pop star boot camp. Oh, wait, no, this is after. This is when a K-pop performer agrees to a contract. So this is when they have a contract from a label, I guess. It's not only for a record deal. They basically sign their life away to a permanent commitment. An agency trains future stars, many of whom are in adolescence, in a range of performance arts such as acting, vocals, and dance for 10 to 15 years before the stars appear in any public act. Although the agency has a supposed commitment to training their performers in a type of boot camp, industry leaders often take advantage of their trainees. The agencies make these contracts last for over a decade at times, so if an idol chooses to back out, they need to pay a hefty fee. These contracts open the door for the agencies to virtually turn the trainees into slaves. Korean laws allowing agencies with, quote, touring artists to work their employees as much as they want, even if it means keeping them from sleeping, as in the case of 2 a.m. idol Jo Kwon. Here's another one. Idols are expected to get plastic surgery. Plastic surgery is far more common in Korea than the US, whereas 1 in 20 women in the US may undergo plastic surgery at some point. The statistics for Korean women claim 1 in 5. 1 in 5 compared to 1 in 20 chooses to go under the knife. With plastic surgery being more culturally accepted and often promoted, the standards of beauty have changed, and many teens also desire plastic surgery. Many agencies force idols to undergo surgery, sometimes multiple times, to achieve a, quote, perfect look and uphold their aspirational aesthetic. Most stars do not openly discuss their plastic surgery, in part to maintain their idol image, but their physical changes are usually apparent, especially around the eyes, lips, and nose. The average viewer might not notice the differences at first glance, but a plastic surgeon can spot them immediately.
I wonder how many old timers are like speaking out against K-pop in Korea. I mean, this type, like the BTS type stuff, given that it's so materialistic, so empty. Like, are they kind of like? Are there any conservative types in that country, much like conservatives here, that talk about how empty culture has become?
I'm sure there are some. I bet Anthony could speak to that, but yeah, just how they're exploiting them. I mean, we obviously there are articles like this here in the US about it. But yeah, I have no idea. Managers reportedly blackmail their idols to prevent them from breaking contracts. Yeah. And it goes on about how it's really difficult for them to break their contracts. I mean, that sounds familiar to us in the States with bands and record label industry here before it became much easier to just operate without a label. But look at this one. K-pop idol Baek Ji-young's manager filmed her having sex and brought out the footage when she wanted to change contracts. She thought he was bluffing until he put the video on the internet. She tried to sue him, but he fled to the U.S., where authorities apprehended him for statutory rape. She claimed her career was nearly ruined by the incident and took years off before returning to the music scene. And then
I don't know much about that other than what you said.
And then the agencies allegedly pimp their trainees to sponsors.
Makes sense.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of these sections.
This is like, here's one interesting thing. So far, I think the woke kind of would find a lot to appreciate about K-pop bands because of like that academic paper that we read, and the articles that you see where they're saying, hey, look, they're challenging the heteronormative gender norms and they're encouraging you, showing that you can be gender fluid. So I would think the woke culturally here in the States would have a lot to praise about K-pop. But when are they going to start criticizing the need to look a certain way, to look perfect, to be skinny, to have plastic surgery, because that's one thing that the woke do criticize, that there can be no traditional standards of beauty,
Oh.
And I don't see that happening yet. Look at this part. It says that they resort to starvation in order to uphold a particular aesthetic at all times. One of these band members says she dieted so much her hormone levels lowered to those of a menopausal woman. Paper cup diet. I don't even want to know what that is.
It's like 2 girls, 1 cup.
Oh, gross.
No, you did.
Okay, which involves consuming 9 paper cups worth of food a day. The contents of those paper cups weren't specified. It's simply 9 cups of whatever the person chooses to put in them. Well, what if they put donuts in them? Right?
A cup full of donuts.
I'm on the 9-cup diet, but it's 9 cups of donuts.
Tastes the same coming back up.
And then fans go to extreme lengths to get close with stars. Yeah, that's kind of scary, of course. Because of toxic idolization, a fan's devotion can sometimes lead to obscene acts and invasions of privacy. One K-pop manager revealed his personal experience with these fans, exposing the horrors of obsession. He says the taxi-following fans are actually the docile ones. Things can get much worse for people who take their standing to extremes. Not only have fans broken into his building multiple times, they once spread urine and feces all over his doorstep as if to mark their territory.
Oh.
Okay, that's weird. Here, you're right, there's a lot of sections on this. I'm going to stop. You have another article about the dark side. Or do you want me to pull that one up, or is it?
Oh, you don't have to pull that one up. It's similar stuff. It just kind of goes into a little bit more detail about the people putting their kids into these schools and their experiences. So,
and then you have some fun stuff. Are we to the intermittent frivolity section of the show?
I think.
I also sent you a kind of a funny video in your.
Okay, I got it. Which one should I start with? Yours?
Mystery Chris's.
Okay.
Oh, I had a couple. One of them is not so much funny as it is just weird.
Okay. Is that the first one?
Yeah.
This one's called Klingon Style.
Yes. So when Gangnam Style came out, there was all these people doing variations of it. One of them was a Star Trek theme one, which is just really weird. So
and you're a big
don't just pay a little bit of it. You know, I could only take so much of it, but just to give you a small sample of it.
Open Klingon Style.
Oh my goodness.
Klingon Style. What
this is great.
Oh, you like this? Not regular Star Trek. Okay.
Yeah, this is a lot better than regular Star Trek.
Show's over, folks.
I'm kidding.
Record scratch.
What? Oh, I don't know if we can play more. I think we might get a strike. I'm gonna stop, but that is very funny. You can only take a few minutes of that?
Yes.
So is this another gang?
This is another angle one, starring a certain person from World War II.
Oh no. I know we're definitely getting banned. This is a mashup because remember that Hitler meme? This video was everywhere at the same time, and everybody was doing different kinds of parodies with it. This is your favorite. Oh man. Okay. And then you have some tattoos. Okay. Before we get to the tattoo game, K-Bear says, I started laughing at the title. Davina, I must ask you a question. You guys are too funny. And Kevin says that's actual Klingon from the Okuda.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
You lich judge. I only know how to say cheers in Klingon.
Where'd you learn that?
You lich judge. I played in a band in the 90s with this. A bass player was super major Star Trek. He went to all the conventions. And
Nice.
So we'd be drinking beer and be like, you lich judge. So
you know, there's Klingon death metal bands.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Have fun looking that up.
Thanks.
So what is this first clip that you sent me? And I hope I have the right link because your link didn't work, but I just looked it up.
Me?
Yeah. What is this?
Oh, I sent you a couple. Okay, so the first one, I don't know if you ever saw this video, but it was a Japanese safety video. It was like for women. It doesn't really have much to do with what we've been talking about. I just thought it was kind of weird and funny. But it's like these. So it's an aerobics video, and these Japanese women are explaining in English, trying to explain in bad English how to. They're teaching English phrases in case you're ever attacked on the street and you're in America or you're in a country where they speak English and you need to get the help from a police officer. They're teaching you necessary phrases.
Oh, so self-defense in English. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Here we go.
So, I don't know if you've ever seen this or not.
三角筋でトラブル。やだ。道に迷っちゃったみたい。なんか人気のないところに来ちゃったわ。
Shut up! Don't say a word.
What? Is this supposed to happen?
Yes.
Take anything you want. Take anything you want. Take anything you want.
Have you not seen this?
No, I've never seen this.
This came out like 20 years ago.
脇を締めてテイク。開いて anything。最後 you want で腕を伸ばします。Take anything you want.
What?
Take anything you want. Take anything you want. Take anything you want. Take anything you want.
I want to see BTS cover this song.
Hold on, keep going. You just go a little bit farther.
Take anything you want.
Hand me your bag.
The music in the background.
Why do they have that
Don't
music?
move! If you do, I'll kill you.
Don't kill me.
Spare me my life. Spare me my life. Spare me my life.
Why are they doing aerobics while
They're teaching English syntax
with
rhythm and music. That's how you teach language. With rhythm
You
and
learn
music.
English while working out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets better. I mean, it does get better.
Spare me my life. Spare me my life. Spare me my life. Spare me my life. 大変よ。
What's the matter?
あのね。
Calm down and speak slowly.
だから二人組の男に襲われたのよ。
So bizarre.
I was robbed by two men. I was robbed by two men.
That's it.
I was
That's it.
robbed by two men. I was robbed by two.
Surprised they didn't put black in there. I was robbed by two black men. Well, I mean, statistically, they're kind of correct.
It's Japan. They're enlightened.
Okay, what's this other one?
Oh, the other one I sent you was it's just kind of a funny video because I would show it to my kids when I was teaching English. You'll see why, but it's basically this English instructor. It's a Japanese English instructor, and he's demonstrating how to properly pronounce English words in the classroom. But all of his students are native English speakers, so it's this kind of funny thing because the students are pronouncing the words in perfect English, like we all speak, and he's teaching them how to pronounce it like a Japanese speaker because that's perfect language pronunciation to him. His English pronunciation to him is perfect. He's a Japanese native.
Okay, so I don't know if I have the correct link or not because it didn't come. Can you drop the link in the private chat here?
Yeah.
In stream. Yeah, thank you. Because I looked for one, but I couldn't find that exact one. And I think this is probably wrong. Catwa says, I'm trying to eat, but no, I can't.
How do I do private chat? Okay, I see.
You see it? Okay. That's so weird. It's still like
I got it. Don't you worry. Here you go. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to watch the whole thing. It's like 5 minutes long. It's kind of funny. The kids always cracked up because of the irony. I've seen this video like 20,000 times.
Hey, 今日の三通紙は英語だね。はい、だって英語の本の、10ページ、10ページ開いていい？英語というのはとりあえず発音を注意するよね、発音をね、難しいから。はい、いくよ。じゃあ、ちょっと読んでみて、10ページ。お前、授業中にガム噛んでダメだ、お前、ガム噛んでだ。はい、読んでみて、10ページ。
This is my father.
次は
This is my mother.
それじゃあ僕は英語通じないよ、お前。通じないよ、もっとはっきり言って、もっとゆっくり。
This is my mother.
そのマザーの発音が悪い。This is my father.
This is
This is my father.
This is my father. Who's this?
Huh?
Who's this?
Oh.
It's my uncle.
アンクルの発音が悪い。It's my uncle. アンクル。
Uncle.
チリじゃない、アンクル。
Uncle.
アンクル。
Uncle.
Good. Nice like this, yeah.
So your students love that?
Yeah, that's pretty funny. That guy's like, he's some kind of a famous comedian in Japan.
Okay, I've got one for you guys. Also, not K-pop, but I thought of it at the end when we were talking about commercials. There's a lot of really great old like 1970s Japanese commercials where people would go, well, even now, like Nicolas Cage does a lot of them, where American actors will go and make a lot of money doing commercials in Asia. And this is probably my favorite one. Have you guys seen the Mandem cologne?
No.
You know what I'm talking about? Okay.
No.
This is Charles Bronson.
All the world loves a lover. All the world loves Linda. Good night, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bronson. Good night, Mr. Bronson. Sleep tight.
Thank you, sir.
It's a long commercial here in Japan. It's like a mini movie.
All the world loves a lover. All the girls in every life.
Watch this.
Oh.
This shirt doesn't come back down. Dude, okay, first of all, you guys see he throws his shirt in the air and it doesn't come back down, and now he's literally bathing in the cologne. Like, He's not just putting this is just it's just weird.
We missed it.
Okay.
I was more distracted by the fact that somebody asked if that was Nat King Cole playing piano at the beginning of the video.
Oh.
Mandem.
He did several Mandem commercials. I just thought
Wow.
that to me is the funniest one. Elizabeth says, "Was it a powder?" No, it was like a liquid cologne, and he's just like shaking it all over himself.
Did y'all notice if that was Nat King Cole playing piano at the beginning of the video? I think it was. It looked like him.
Was it?
Yeah.
I don't really
look. Well, because this is like 1970 or maybe 1968. I mean, that makes sense. He looked a little older than what we're, when he was in his heyday in the 50s. But anyways,
I don't think so. Oh, it's his brother.
Really?
Well, I found something. I found that looks like a fan site for the Mandem cologne.
The fan club. Wow.
I needed a Mandem T-shirt for Christmas.
Oh,
tell Tiger.
Taking a note. Tiger, take a note.
He never does anything for me. That's the least he can do.
Okay, we've run over tonight, but we sometimes end with a game called "Is There a Tattoo of That?" where we look and see. Anthony, you have to come up with a theme song for us for our game. We need a little jingle.
We got it.
And so we look and see if people have tattoos of whatever thing we've been discussing. What was the weirdest tattoo? What was the weirdest subject we looked at that people had tattoos of?
Oh, geez. Can't think of the top of my head. I know.
Well, last week, somebody had a tattoo on their entire chest. Was a scene from Gone with the Wind. It was Tara.
Yeah, that was the Avatar tattoo guy.
The Avatar tattoo guy was probably the weirdest. His whole body. Another weird one. Oh, somebody had a tattoo of Will Smith slapping Chris Rock.
There were multiple people with that tattoo.
It's weird. Okay. BTS tattoos. Does somebody have a tattoo of that? Yes, they do.
Look at the low effort tattoos.
What? The best 30 BTS tattoos and tattoo ideas.
Wow, only 30.
Wow, look at these. I think that one's kind of well done. The Black Swan one.
It's a little homosexual, but that's okay.
What?
Alternate lifestyle.
I don't get why these are BTS tattoos, but I don't know a lot about BTS.
It might be a song. I don't know. Lyric from a song or something.
These are these the eyes of that one guy we were looking at? They were kind of like the blue eyes.
I don't know. It's creepy, regardless.
What is this thing they have with the masks and stuff?
I don't know. They part of Illuminati?
The Golden Boy. Hope World. That's another Hope World tattoo. That one is really crappy.
Does the guy just like draw on a face? Like he can just draw on a different face? Like if he wants to like be one of the guys, like for one day, put that on the tattoo. And
we don't know what any of this means. If any young person who likes BTS finds this video, they're gonna be like, "Look at these old people."
there might be some older people who know. You might get a 75, 80-year-old person who's into BTS.
Really? I would like to interview that
I would
180.
love to know who that is.
Let's just put it out there. If you're, let's say 70, if you're 70, over the age of 70, and you're a big fan of BTS, please get in touch. I would like to interview you. You can reach us at deprogrammedpod@gmail.com.
We need to find that Facebook group.
80-year-olds.
Disturbing.
Septuagenarians who have a BTS tattoo. I mean, it just keeps going and going. How many? I guess there's got to be tons of K-pop tattoos. Wow. Well, some of these are.
Some of those are cool.
Yeah, the masks. What is the masks? But yeah, some are well done. Some are creepy.
Looks like a zombie. Huh. So there's apparently a lot of balloon imagery in their videos or something, because I see a lot of balloons.
Yeah. Hope World. Hope World sounds like kind of the bad translation that you were describing.
What does that mean? They think it means something.
Welcome to Hope World.
Hope World. Hope World.
Stick one.
Oh, it's pretty good. The way it's done, not the quality.
Okay. Well, the answer is yes. Somebody does have, many someones have BTS tattoos.
I thought we were going to find a Mandem tattoo.
Oh.
Good try.
And
maybe a Charles Bronson, but that's kind of old. I don't know. Young people tend to only get these crazy tattoos.
I can't find a Mandem tattoo. Is that the first time ever we couldn't find a tattoo of something?
No, there have been other ones.
Okay. Well, we've run over. So I want to thank you guys the new folks in the chat for joining us and hanging out. This is a live show that Misty, Chris, and I do here on Deprogrammed every Wednesday night at 8:00 Central. And we just pick a different pop culture topic and jump into it and watch old news clips and read articles, and we get copyright strikes all the time. So you should catch us live, because our videos don't always stay up because of the stuff we watch. But thanks for joining us, and thank you for so many regulars who are in the chat, and thank you guys again for the super chats. You guys, it's been great, and thank you to what's on your shirt.
So I just realized that I'm wearing my Korean shirt. I just put this on before I went to the airport this morning. And this is my Daehan Minguk South Korea shirt. I was also going to say that I can say goodbye, see you next time in Korean if you want.
Can you say, well, first of all, thank you for joining us, and tell people where they can find you.
The Real Burden, Anthony Music, without the A, silent or invisible A.
He's here on YouTube, has a new music video out called Devil in My Heart. You can go check it out. And yeah, thank you guys. Okay, you want to take us out with that Korean goodbye?
Yeah. 안녕히 가세요, 여러분. 다음번 뵙겠습니다.
You too.
Yes. Ditto.
Ditto. Bye, guys.
I'm gonna go then, and I don't need any